What's up, guys? Welcome back to Inside the Lines. We have a lot of NBA to get through today. Nothing crazy, not too much college basketball right now. We do have some games that are tipping off at the 5 o'clock hour, some live betting opportunities to be had. Certainly going to get into that with Jake and Steven. Boys, let's take a look back at Tuesday. Bad news, a lot of red.
No,
good news. It can only get better from here. Okay?
Not so good looking Christmas tree.
I had the best run of my recent history after an 0-6 last Monday. So, Jake, no doubt you'll be there.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't my fault because Domantas Sabonis, that X should be a partial check because I swear there's at least 15 minutes of real time where he was credited with a block, and then they took it away just to freak me out. And so that's half a credit there.
Well,
yeah, I'm also gonna give myself half a credit for the NC State -5.5 live. So I'll give myself some credit there. And for posting Wright State before the show started. So
all right, guys.
Not all X's for me,
Hey, this is good news to me. This means it's a buy low, awesome opportunity for the whole team. Okay. This is when you want to get in on us right now at the bottom. All right, let's move on here quick to 5 p.m. tip-offs that we have to look at. LaSalle versus St. Bonnie. Nichols State versus McNeese. Large spread there. So that should be an interesting live spot. Jake, anything we want to look out for in these games? We're going to live bet here.
I mean, these aren't two of the bigger games. St. Bonaventure, LaSalle both have decent offenses, so I could see some big swings in that game. I think McNeese is just the better team there, but we have slight value on Nichols. So, but that's the game where if the heavy favorite goes down early, there could be some value getting them live.
Okay, so maybe look for them to go down early. All right, before we get into the NBA slate, let's see all the questions in the chat. Love to answer the questions. Jake, let's hit 2 baseball plays. I know you were almost hesitant to give out some plays today, but this is when the comeback kids come alive. We're going right back to it. Nebraska, Wichita, now under 14.5. We had 13 it was yesterday. This has come down already, though, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, there was 10 runs scored up until the 8th inning yesterday, so got a little bit of bad luck there. It's opened at 16. I'm like, oh, that's plenty of value. I think we have it at 12 in the Sims, but it's already gone down to 14.5 where like it should have, but I don't think it's gone down quite enough. So I'm just going to ride it again. Hopefully it hits, but I think you're still getting some value at 14.5 compared to the 13 yesterday.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll move on to another run line here with FGCU.
Yeah, I think if FGCU wins this game, they're going to win by multiple runs. They're playing at FIU. FIU is coming off a 24-2 loss to FAU, but I think they won the 2 games of that series. FIU is not terrible, but I think FGCU has the much better offense here. We have them winning in like 65% of Sims, so probably run line value. We don't do run lines, but I'm sure there's run line value if you take that into account. But I think if they win big.
Okay. All right. Good to know. And do we know when these games start?
It's probably 6 or 7.
All right. So we got some time. Just making sure. Don't want to know if you need some urgency here. All right, let's head into the NBA slate. As we go through the NBA slate, we'll certainly keep an eye on some of these live games and live lines as well. But we'll head over to the model, talking about some plays here. I see some questions in the chat already. We'll start with the first game of the night. Toronto headed to Detroit. Detroit, 3.5-point favorites. Are we getting close to that over 14.5 season win total? I think yes. Do we have any value on Detroit here?
Yes. So I'm distracted. I'm engaged with Big Cheesy about whether Sabonis did end up getting a block or not. I don't think he did. Check 3 sites. Yeah, he didn't. Anyway, what's the question? Oh, Detroit. Yeah, they are. We do like Detroit. Also Thompson's out, but we still like Detroit against Toronto. Because Toronto's besides missing, Podol and Scotty Barnes. Now they're without RJ Barrett as well. And Emmanuel Quickley is also, I think, on the injury list still, so they could be in big trouble. The player but we know that Detroit's not good enough to crush anyone. So I really like Cade Cunningham to go over, and so 34.5 was available. And I was thinking about sticking with 35.5 at normal juice, but I think every point necessary after a combined 2 for 12 last night. So let's pay the steeper price for the lower number. The model has a ton of value, almost 4 points above that. Very strong home splits, much higher average at home. Really good recent splits, very high average recently. And I just think that with the missing pieces on Toronto, he can kind of save himself as a defender. He doesn't really have to occupy himself with, chasing a guy around, chasing RJ Barrett around or whoever else he would be assigned to.
Where is most of our value stemming from between points, rebounds, and assists? Because I see some questions about all different types of versions of Cade Cunningham in the chat. Anything we'd stay away from specifically, like taking more of the assists or the rebounds?
When I go with points, rebounds, assists, I always make sure there's value in all three. So there's heavy juice on over 4.5 rebounds, but we have 5.5, so we have a lot of line value there. His assists last time I cornered this is, I'm a liar. This is updated. Now they're juiced. We technically have under 8.5 total assists. This line adjusted, but at minus 120, so we have no value there. Rebounds and points, we have value on over 23.5. So maybe by the model strictly might adjust this to just points and rebounds. This updated with Thompson out, he's getting a few more assists because Thompson can actually get decent number of assists.
Right. Okay. Checks out. All right, I think that's all the questions for this game so far. We can head over to Brooklyn going to Orlando. Not too much steam going on here, but we do like a lot of points to be scored in general. Yeah,
this is that always makes me nervous when the line is so different from our sim line and the season trend. So this is definitely I think I have it classified as something wacky. Because look, the model has 214 points. This was 205 earlier this morning, 205.5. Now it's down to 204.5 with not very high juice on the over. So because season average in Brooklyn games on the road is 226, and a lot of overs recently, 5 straight overs in Brooklyn games. But people are buying, the odds makers are looking at Orlando's side more, which is coming in 8-1 unders. So the last two are to horrendous field goal percentage by Orlando. That's bound to regress back to norm. And then only 3 games in this 9-game stretch was the under coming through because of a slower pace and fewer possessions. So I think that the over is 10-5 when Orlando has 2+ days rest, and the overall season average at home is 220. So if this game was being played a month ago, before the All-Star game, before this trend of 9 fewer points per game hit, I think the line would be priced around 221. So it's all about whether this recent post All-Star game trend is going to play out today to this extreme.
Okay. A few questions in the chat about some player props here. We can start with Finney Smith here. Over 4.5 rebounds, I believe, is the line.
We're projecting 4, so that's not value, obviously. So he's been playing a lot more minutes. He's going to go over, then I could go with it. I guess the model's not impressed by him only getting 3 rebounds in 37 minutes of this game. He did get a 5 in 38 minutes and just a 4 in 33. So he's not been crushing that number despite the elevated minutes.
Mm-hmm. What about Mikal Bridges here? Over 3.5 assists.
Again, we only have 3.2 assists. And I would be nervous if you agree with the odds maker. So these unders are also based on us expecting there to be 10 more points than the odds makers do. If you are with the odds makers who look, this number 92 is a sample of we're getting from our vendors says that 92% of people betting the over, but the line's still coming down. That means the smart money is all on the under. So I would be very nervous about picking overs on points and assists right now, unless you have extreme faith in our model, which after last night, So no, I can't hear you.
Oh, no mute button.
Sorry, guys. All right, let's move on to a game with a lot less question marks going on. I think Chicago headed to Indiana here. We like some player props. What else do we like here? I could look at, is Halliburton playing?
Yeah, he should be. And I do want to call it Derek. I think he's going to post something here. I found a nice, I think a very good price for Miles Turner's blocks, who's been on a block tear recently. I'm going to go with Aaron Nesmith over 1.5 assists. This was at plus 150 an hour ago, so it's come down slightly. I like my plus money. I had better look on plus money picks yesterday than the minus 180 because Colin Sexton couldn't play any defense and get one stinking steal for me. The line is fair based on the overall trends, right? His hit at home, it's 1.5 average with a 12 and 15 over. And overall just 21-36 over. But he's recently been getting more. Last 6 games, his average at 1.7. Versus Chicago, going back to last year, he's averaged over 2 assists. So, and we're projecting over 116.5 team total for Indiana. So again, I think that at plus 145, it's a good bet.
Mm-hmm. Would like a plus money play, that's for sure. Jake breaking some news in the chat here. Calvin Ridley to the Titans. How are you feeling about that, Jake?
I mean, he's getting $92 million. So, while I'm upset that we didn't re-sign him, I think that's kind of crazy.
Way too much money, yeah.
Way too much money.
Will he play 9 years? How long is his contract?
Yeah, 4 years, $92 million with $50 million guaranteed. I'm like with this year's draft class, I would much rather get.
He was so inconsistent with Trevor Lawrence. What's he going to do with McKenzie's guy?
Exactly. Will Levis, yeah. I mean, I'm upset because I didn't love Gabe Davis signing, but maybe if we get a wide receiver in round 2, like
especially with the draft being so deep in wide receivers, I'm
it's
really
loaded.
Surprised to spend that much
maybe
money.
like an AD Mitchell from Texas.
I guess it's the combo. Is Hopkins is still going to be there, right? So I guess they think the combo is pretty devastating.
Yeah.
All right, we'll kick it back to association. Just thought that was worth mentioning. Let's head over to Denver going to Miami. That should be a fun game. No injuries that I believe, right?
Yeah, so it should be a clean game. I was really excited once because I made a mistake. I looked at the odds jam board and I was like, oh my God, you can get Jokic at 8.5 points. I was like, it's Nikola Jovic. I was, so don't, it was very odd for a moment there. So yeah, don't get that confused if you're betting an under. Model has 36 points and assists. Again, we didn't have value on his rebounds in this game. But there's even money for 33.5 points and assists. Very strong overtrend overall. He actually averages more on the road. Some of his teammates play much better at home, and they obviously blow teams out at a higher rate at home. So on the road, it's up to him to take on even more of the load. Very nice recent stretch. Star players with this high 31 to 36 average. They averaged 31.5 at Miami versus just 29 versus Miami at home. So, no South Beach flu impacting the stars in the league. And Miami allows 113 at home, which is 6 more than they do on the road. So they tend to get into more shootouts.
Mm-hmm. Big Cheesy going for that triple-double. Someone over in production was trying to take the triple-double. Plus 189, it's pretty solid to me. What do we have him for?
I think that look, he's going to get a double-double for lock. So if you say literally a 90% chance of a double-double, then I would think that the assists might be the least valuable. Maybe there's got to be at least close to 40%. Yeah, so I think that's a good bet. Aaron Gordon, we do like over 2.5 assists. Last game, they had a come from behind versus Toronto. So he only had 1 assist, but he had 7 the night before. So he's been getting a lot of assists recently. He hasn't been rebounding for squat, but
gotta pick your battles there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, good stuff there, Matik. Anything on Bam? My guy Bam, 3.7 assists.
Well, I don't know let me see what the lines are for.
We might not still have that value at 3.5 like we used to.
Yeah. Looks like, I think it's minus 106, so it's not plus money on the over 3.5 assists. What's Rozier been doing? Rozier's assist numbers have come down the last 2 games, and Bam's have been, kind of where they were. So maybe they're doing less ball dominant Rozier and maybe using him more as a spot up shooter to some degree, like the rest of players on the team.
Spot up shooters. That's how Bam gets his assists. All right. Let's move on here to Charlotte, headed to Memphis. We're going back to our boy Brandon Miller. I do like this because the volume is there. The guy's launching up field goal attempts for.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Accuracy be damned. There's the good thing about Charlotte is they obviously have nothing to play for, and the only thing they can do is give Brandon Miller all the confidence in the world and let him shine as much as possible. So I think that he shoots a higher percentage on the road than he does at home. Memphis allows a slightly higher percentage at home than they do on the road. And mostly it's all purely a bunch of field goal attempts, right? So his average, obviously the season trends aren't great, 8 and 19, which is a 16-point average. But that's based on a 14.5 field goal attempt for most of the season when Charlotte was at least pretending to try to win. But in the last 6 games, his low was 15. He's had a couple 21 field goal attempt games and the 17 and 19. So it may take 20 shots to get to 20 points, but I feel like he can get 20 points on 20 shots.
A couple questions in the chat about his threes. Do we like him over 2.5 threes? Is there a reason?
Yeah, we do, because again, the volume's there. We have him like 3.4, so we have a lot of value. He hasn't gone over to the last 3 games, but he's not trying. He's been trying. 10, 7. He's shooting like Steph Curry rate 3-point attempts.
You got to give him that. It's got to fall at some point. A loud question in the chat. If we like Jokic real quick, over under 12 rebounds tonight.
Let's see. Jokic, we only have 11.5 rebounds, so we would take the under. 17-6 last 2. I hate trying to bet under for Jokic anything.
Same. I just want to bet the over or stay off it.
Yeah, because he can get it in a quarter.
I'm trying to see where we are in these live college basketball games.
There's nothing really right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm done today because we're 1-0. I tweeted out a BYU live minus 8.5, and they won by 14, 15.
TCU spread is 14.5. Butler Xavier tied game. We
we had some value on the live under, but barely. There's really no value on the spread or anything else. And Butler just took the lead with 3.
Who did we like to win before the start of the
game? So Xavier was a -2 favorite. We had him by -1.5. So it's going as expected.
Right. Just how we thought. Just how we cooked it up. Okay. Moving on here. Let's go over to Cleveland going to New Orleans.
Yeah.
So Nola here.
New Orleans has been manhandling some teams with, especially in Cleveland's going to be without Mobley again and Strus, and maybe Mitchell's still here, iffy, but his line's out. So I'm going to go with Valanciunas. So this is I categorize this as kind of a wacky, something crazy, because the line 9.5 is obviously way under his season average at home, which is 14. So if you're going to go it's 25-5, which seems like a lock, but his last 6 games, it has a 7-point per game average, which is obviously pretty low. He was benched versus Indiana. Derek was on that there was some kind of, I guess he pissed some coach off and he was just benched. So that really cut into his recent average. I'm thinking he learned his lesson. The last 2 games they were up big, so he didn't have to play major minutes. My theory here is Jarrett Allen has been scoring a lot of points and is obviously the critical piece on the boards and defensively for Cleveland. So it could be a strategy to attack Allen both with Zion and Valanciunas, so you can get some early foul trouble on him. So that's why I hope that Valanciunas is in there early. He tends to get scoring early when they use that strategy. If he doesn't have 6 in that first quarter, I'll be nervous.
Fair. Sometimes you think plays are a lock in the first half and then they aren't.
He rebounds in the second half but if they're going to use him as a centerpiece in the offense, he usually gets it done early.
We got a lot of questions in the chat about Mr. Trey Murphy. I promise it wasn't me bringing it up.
I was hoping to get value on this. and I was going to fade the model, but
we don't love Trey tonight. He's just scary.
It all depends on the minutes, right? So I think that we only have him projected for a normal Trey game. So we don't have value on his over. But again, if this gets out of hand early, it could be because he gets to a hot start when he comes off the bench, and then he stays in when the team's up big. So I'm thinking that Cleveland for the season has actually been just as good nearly on the road as they were at home. Their point differential is actually slightly better on the road. So they've been really inconsistent recently, but I'm thinking that's why I didn't go with Trey to have a big game playing major minutes in a blowout. Can't hear you, Mackenzie.
I don't know why I keep doing that. Looks like Jake's coming in.
We don't mind hearing you type.
Yeah. I got a live bet.
It might annoy you, but it doesn't bother me.
That's all that matters. All right, Jake, let's hear the live bet action. What do we got going on in college basketball?
So Colorado State minus 10.5. I just got it at Hard Rock at minus 120. We have that covering 65% of the time. They're up 5.5. So pretty good value right now if you get 10.5 in your books.
Okay, so we're looking at Colorado State minus 10.5.
Colorado State, San Jose State.
Okay. Minus 10.5.
Best odds 10.5. I'm surprised that.
The average is minus 12.
Yeah. So if you're in Florida, get Hard Rock minus 10.5. Right now it's minus 120. It was just at minus 115.
Okay, good to know. We're on the live betting board.
Caesar's minus 12.5 at the same exact price as BetMGM at minus 10.5. So you're getting 2 points of value there.
Bang. Wow. Love to see it.
Some risk manager at one of those books is going to get fired.
We're calling them out. All right, we got 3 more games to get through in the NBA. Tonight, Golden State headed to Dallas. We are going back to Chris Paul, who we've decided he's starting to become a little sneaky player in our playbook, I feel like.
Yeah, so we do have a lot of value on Golden State, who, shouldn't be impressive, but they did come back to beat San Antonio on the road. But I obviously wouldn't, without Curry, I'm not going to go crazy on a Golden State pick. Chris Paul over an 11.5 points. So the model's at 12.6. Obviously the season trends don't really apply because but what applies is this one is when he does get 30 more minutes, the over is 8-5, even with the Warriors. And obviously with Steph Curry out, he should be a lock for 32 minutes. He does have a higher road average, and especially recently. Chris Paul for his career is what I would consider a great shooter, right? He's flirted with 50, 90, 40 years, 50% from the field, 90 from the free throw line, 40 from 3. The last few years hasn't been quite that high, but he's a very good, efficient shooter. And I think the Warriors offense, being built with Steph Curry and Draymond as a facilitator, you need a shooter at point guard for it to work right. So the only one who would want Chris Paul to play classic dish pass first is Jonathan Kuminga. Everyone else, so it doesn't work right if Chris Paul isn't an offensive threat, which is why, he is, maybe against his natural instinct, getting shots up, 19 field goal attempts his last game. That's very rare for him. Mm-hmm. I love that he shot that many.
Do we have any value on Draymond Green block and steal over 1.5?
Draymond Green, 1.5 blocks and steal. We have 1.45. He has 0.72 on each. But maybe on one versus the other. We like his blocks is heavily juiced. So we have under in steals. I think I'd go with his blocks alone.
Okay. Good to know. All right, 2 more games.
I did see someone ask about Daniel Gafford over 10.5 points. Only projecting 10 there, but it looks like we're not the only ones who hate Derek Lively for his 0.0 assist, 1 rebound, 0 assist game the other day. He is kind of officially now listed as the backup. He had a huge game last game as a backup because he was 11 for 12 from the field. But now with Gafford in as the listed starter and getting 23, 24 minutes, he has scoring much. So we don't have a 10.5 points. The model doesn't have value because it's still adjusting to the new world. But based on what I've seen recently, I think I like that pick.
Mm-hmm. Someone said send the spreadsheet to us. That is not legal or possible, but appreciate that.
No, that was the product development in our world. How quickly we can work on our stuff is a lot faster than what engineers and product people do for the website. So sportsline.com will be evolving into this. And ideally, you guys will be able to just press it for a nice low $9.95 a month.
Yes. Good sell job, Steven. All right, let's move on here. I see Derek talking about the Mavs in the chat. We'll go over, wrong way I'm going. Atlanta going to Portland here. Atlanta catching a lot of steam on the road, but we kind of we make it closer to pick 'em here.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to gauge at this point because Atlanta just got killed at home and they beat Memphis, and it's kind of waffling back and forth. They beat New York by a lot. They lost at Brooklyn, so they've been kind of all over the map. And Portland got crushed by Boston, but that's Boston. They actually beat Toronto handily, so I don't trust many of the market lines on this one. I'm going back to the well and what worked for me recently. I had Simons here under 3.5 turnovers there 2 days his last game, and it was plus money his last game, plus 100. Now they've adjusted to minus 135. I still think that's a fair price. Our model is the exact same projection as that night. So the season under trend is strong, 14-8 at home, 27-14 overall. And the logic, I actually watched this game to make sure that my logic applied. The logic the other night still should apply. The idea was that his turnovers were way up at a certain stretch because Scoot Henderson was out and Brogdon was out. So Simons was basically playing point guard. And as the primary ball handler, he was turning the ball over a lot. But in this game back, Scoot would play the point guard, and Scoot was the one who turned all the ball over. But he was turning it over, and then they were walking up and waiting for Ayton to settle into the post because Ayton's been scoring at a high clip, 30 and 22 his last 2 games, shooting a high percentage. So I don't see any reason why that strategy won't continue. And so that's why that as long as Simons goes back to the shooting guard spot, not the primary ball handler distributor, then his turnover should go back to what they were for the season.
Mm-hmm. People in the chat asking about Clint Capella over assists again.
Yeah, it's your call. Do it.
Yeah.
You got plus 210 on over 2.5. You had over 2.5. He had
1.5. I think it was just 1.
Oh, 1.5. Yeah. Plus 210 on over 1.5.
Yeah, it was. What about Clint Capella over 12.5 rebounds and assists?
Well, we had the line is what, 12.5? We only have 11.6 rebounds and assists, but maybe we're underselling his minutes a little. No, I guess not. We don't.
Scott took Clint Capella over 3 assists for plus 850.
Yeah, I saw that.
Shout out. Way to trust the team. I love when people put their trust in us like that, and it works out. All right. Speaking of my kind of players, let's move on to the Lakers headed to Sacramento. My guy, Austin Reeves, we got value on to go over his points and assist total. Love to see it.
Yeah. So we have a lock trend involved. So model has 22 points and assists, and this price has actually come down. I think it was minus 115. Now it's minus 105. So we are fading his overall road trend, just 16 and 15, and his Sacramento trend, which is just 16.5 average and 1 and 3 his last 4. But most importantly, the one was the last game they played just the other night at home versus Sacramento. So Sacramento's 3-point defense has gotten considerably worse at home this season. And as a result, it's driving this 13 and 1 trend where guards that average 18 to 22 points and assists, like Reeves, when they play Sacramento on their home courts, they average 20.6, which is what you would expect when you're averaging 18 to 22. But on the road, they're averaging 24.6, so well over basically 4.5 points higher than they should. And the over is almost a lock.
Wow. So they really can't handle guards like Reeves on their own home territory.
That's what I hope. I mean, obviously, like the Lakers are listed, everyone's listed as healthy. So maybe, his usage may not be there. But then Sacramento's this 3-point defense allowed. And, 4 points higher, more allowed at home than on the road.
Right.
So I'm banking on.
Fair enough. Question in the chat about any of our college basketball plays. We didn't love anything from this hour, but we did put a little live bet on Colorado State minus the 10.5, some value there. So I don't know what that looks like now. Jake, any update on those games?
Oh, that was just at half. I put it in, but the Xavier Butler game is back and forth. So I'm sure if you could at this point, you could probably get both teams at some point at plus money and take a little bit of a profit with how it's going back and forth.
Right.
But I know we have value on NC State over Louisville. Not Louisville. That was yesterday. NC State over Syracuse today. I don't love that, but I do think NC State's probably the safer bet in that game.
All right. Well, we do have plenty of other plays for you guys too. College baseball plays, a little comeback moment for Jake. Only gets better from here. Some NBA player props as always. Again, reach out to us on Twitter with any questions you have. Hopefully we can cash this Colorado State spread with the team. Go 2-0 with the BYU play on top of that would be pretty awesome. All right. That's all we got for today. Again, tomorrow, 5 o'clock, just going to be the boys. So be patient with them if they have some technical difficulties here.
If we're not on YouTube tomorrow, it's because Mackenzie's abandoning us, and we might be on a Twitter space, whatever they call it these days, Jake, right?
Yes.
So I'm in charge. So you all better tune in. It's going to be a heck of a show.
It'll be entertaining. That is for sure. Might have some hiccups, but wish them luck. All right, guys. Have a great night. Good luck with your bets. And the boys will see you tomorrow.